Alright, so today we are going to learn a new concept of coordination compounds. And as we have finished just the previous unit, which is of D block compounds, and one of the special properties in D block compounds that we have studied was the tendency to form complexes, right? And such complexes are also known as coordination compounds. Why coordination compounds? Because the bonds involved are coordination bonds, right? Coordinate bonds are involved, and such type of bondings are called coordination bonding, and the compounds are called coordination compounds. Well, in NCERT we have given these two examples, and there's one more example, and that example of chlorophyll, right? Chlorophyll. And I haven't drawn the structure of chlorophyll on this page, because whatever the message from these structures you want to get, you will get, right? uh, so this is a very complex, you can see it's a very big molecule, and this molecule is very popular, and we know that this as a hemoglobin, right? And in this compound we also notice that this iron compound is a centrally located metal ion, right? And this iron metal ion is joined to 4 nitrogens by coordinate bonds, right? You can see here there are 4 coordinate bonds. So one of the most popular and most important example of coordination compound, if you want to quote, is that hemoglobin. And the similar basis, you have one more example, which is vitamin B12, right? And here is the complete structure of vitamin B12. And you can also notice that here is central metal atom as cobalt, and which is just bonded to nitrogen, 4 nitrogens by coordinate bonds, right? Here are 4 nitrogens bonded through coordinate bonds, and they make some close structure which is highly stable, right? And similarly in chlorophyll also, the metal which is present in chlorophyll is magnesium. In iron it is in hemoglobin it is iron. In vitamin B12 it is cobalt. And keep in mind that in case of hemoglobin, this iron is in +2 oxidation state and it is bonded to 4 nitrogens, right? While in case of vitamin B12 it is cobalt, which is bonded to 4 nitrogens, right? So such type of complex, you can see this is very complex compound, which is very complex compound. Only the name is I think the name find to be very simple, but not the structure, right? So we are going to learn this part, coordinate part, in this chapter. All right. So such type of complexes are found in almost every part of industry: electroplating, textile, dyeing, and medicinal chemistry, medicinal industry, and mostly it is used for medicinal industries, right? So let us go ahead. Now the person who is associated with the theory was Werner, right? And we will discuss this theory after some time, after going through the examples. Now here on this screen you are looking at just 4 different compounds, and all the 4 different compounds, these are all the 4 different compounds have 2 things in common. And the first thing is that they have central metal as cobalt, and the second thing which is common to each one of them is that cobalt has same oxidation number in each of them, right? And now the question is that if this cobalt means every cobalt is bonded to 3 chloride, you can see it is very common, every cobalt is bonded to 3 chloride. And now when it is bonded to 6 ammonia, right, then the color is yellow. When it is bonded to 5 ammonia, the color is purple. You may not see this purple, right? And Let us make it purple first. Yeah, that's why I was not going for this color, right? So now it is almost nearly improper to see. Now, so this is, we call it purple color, right? This is purple, and when there are 4 ammonia, then the color may vary to green or to violet. This is violet color. I will call it violet, whether it is on screen it is looking violet or not. I will call it violet. Why? Because I like to call it violet, right? And here is purple, and here is yellow, right? So now the question is that how do we know, and why they have different color? How do we know this thing, right? So there was an experiment which was done by many different chemists, and that experiment was the reaction of all these compounds taking 1 mole of each of these 4, right, separately by silver nitrate, and that silver nitrate must be in excess, right? So here is the silver nitrate, and you can see that the reaction resulted into this, right? When you have reacted the first compound, it has resulted in 3 moles of silver chloride precipitate, right? And everyone knows that silver chloride is insoluble, so it gets precipitated very soon, right? So what we conclude that, in this compound and in this and this compound, right, although we see that there are 3 chloride, right, but present 3 chloride may be precipitated as silver chloride and may not be precipitated as silver chloride. Okay, and we know that the formation of silver chloride is from the negative chloride anion, right? And that anion you must get from this compound, right? So that means, that suggests you that in first compound all the 3 chlorine atoms, they are bounded as chloride ions by ionic bond, and that is the result. That is why you get 3 moles of silver chloride. While in second example and third example, we see that there are 3 chloride, and we also expect that these chloride must be bonded by ionic bonds, but in spite of their bonding, we get the results entirely different, and the result is that we have 2 silver chloride and 1 silver chloride. Now what comes to my mind is that out of these 3 chloride, I am talking about the third example, out of these 3 chloride, only 1 chloride was in this precipitate, and that suggests to me that only 1 chloride is ionically bonded, while the rest of the other 2 are bonded differently, right? And that is the different bonding due to which they were unable to give you the precipitate. I hope this part is very clear to it, right? And there is one more experiment which you can go with that, and here is the experiment. When we just dissolve the 1 mole of this compound in 1 liter of solution, and similarly others in 1 liter of solution, here is the idea. Now what we observe, that the boiling point elevation of this compound, right, and we know that the boiling point elevation is 0.52 Kelvin for each molar solution, right? This is the data for water, right? That means if you are taking 1 molar solution, right, 1 molar solution, so this much will be the rise, right? Now I am going to prepare 1 molar, not molar, I am going to prepare 1 molar solution of each one of these compounds. or in simple words you can say that each one of these compounds. The difference only these colored and colorless is that I have written them differently, right? And in short period of time you will notice why, right? So when I dissolve the 1 mole of this compound in which 6 ammonias were present and in which 4 were present, 5 were present, and the 1 molar solution of each one of these when observed for elevation in boiling point, right? We have observed that in this case, in first case it was a 4 times rise of this number. In the second case we have noticed 3 times rise. In third case we have noticed twice rise, right? So what does it indicate? It indicates that 4 times elevation in boiling point means the 1 mole of this compound or this compound has undergone dissociation into 4 pieces, right? So we have 4 pieces, and similarly 3 times indicates that this compound has dissociated into 3 pieces, and here are the 3 pieces. Similarly for this we have 2 pieces, right? And now the question is that how do we know that these pieces will be chlorides, right? And this information when combined with the previous experiment, for example this experiment suggests that there are 3 chloride which have been ionized to give you this precipitate, and that is why we have kept these chloride here as ions, right? And similarly you can notice that the other example also suggests that there are 2 chloride because of 2 silver chloride mole obtained. So we have put them separated, right? And for final example we have 1 chloride. Now what is the should be the way to write down the whole formula? And for that we have just kept all the 3 ionizable stuff or material outside this bracket, right? So here are 3 chlorides, so we have written it chloride, 3 chlorine atoms outside. Here only 2 are ionizable, so we have written 2. So here is 1, we have written 1, right? So these formulas we have derived on the basis of the combination of these 2 experiments, all right? So if you write this formula and if you are going to write this formula, you can notice that this formula is more informative as compared to this formula, right? This formula indicates that there are 3 chlorine atoms which are ionically bonded and which are also ionizable. Here are 2 chlorines which are ionizable, here is 1 which is ionizable, and if this one is going to ionize, then this part will be intact and this will not going to split. Similarly this part which is enclosed in this larger bracket, square bracket, black brackets, this part will not be splitted further. Similarly this part is not going to split further, right? So Werner was the first scientist who has proposed the theoretical aspects, and according to him this is the following structures, right? You can notice the structure, right? So here is the structure for first compound, this compound, right? And you can notice that cobalt is bonded to 6 ammonia. Here are 6 ammonia shown in red, 1 2 3 4 5 6, and each one of them is coordinated with cobalt, right? While the 3 chloride outside this bracket, we have shown them in blue and with dotted line, and these dotted lines, they have meaning that these bonds are ionic. That means they may be ionized, right? I have used the word maybe, not guaranteed, right? And why? You will just learn, right? For second case, we know that there are two chlorides which are ionized and one was not ionized, right? So we have 5 ammonia, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and also we have one chloride, right? Here is one chloride. So each one of them which are inside this bracket, square bracket, each one of them is bonded by coordinate bond, right? So again you find that there are 6 coordinate bonds, but the outside chloride ions, they are again ionically bonded, so we have shown the dotted line. But wait, here is one thing special, and that thing is that this chloride is also bonded ionically, right? Why? Because cobalt has +3 oxidation state, right? So definitely there will be 3 anions, but this anion is bonded ionically as well as coordinately, right? So thereby we understand that this chloride ion is not going to ionize. And for this third example, you can understand 2 chlorine atoms will be bonded through ionic bond as well as coordinate bond, right? As shown here, you can understand, and the last chloride will be bonded on ionically, right? Okay, this part is now over. Now here is one of the uh, old word that you want to learn. This compound and this compound have exactly the same formula. We have exactly the same formula, exactly the same number of precipitates, but we do not have the same color. This is green and this is violet. Such compounds which have same molecular formula, right, and they give different results of physical properties, such compounds are called isomers, right? So why they behave in such a way, we will learn it in some next lecture, all right? And Werner called these compounds as coordinate compound, and he proposed the theory very simply. According to Alfred Werner, a central metal ion has 2 types of valencies, all right? 2 types of valencies, and the first type of valency was known as primary valency and second was secondary valency, right? Primary valency was ionic according to Werner, right? And the secondary valencies are through coordinate bonds, right? So according to Werner, there are 2 types of valencies, primary and secondary, and here we can see metal shows 2 types of linkage or valencies. Primary valencies which are ionizable and which are satisfied by negative ions, while the secondary are non-ionizable and neutral, right? And more important, the secondary valence is equal to the coordination number. What is coordination number? Coordination number is the number of coordinate bonds, right? This is the number of coordinate bonds. This is called coordination number, or you can say the number of ligands bonded together, but the correct word is coordinate bond, right? And it is fixed for a metal depending upon its oxidation state. For example, in this example we have cobalt, and the coordination number you can learn from there. The cobalt is bonded to 6 coordinate bond. In each one of figure you can see there are 6 black lines, right? So in each one of these examples, cobalt has coordination number of 6, while the cobalt has oxidation number of +3, right? So the charge is satisfied by primary valency, means primary valencies are ionizable. Secondary valency will tell you the coordination number, and groups bonded by secondary valencies have spatial arrangement which is called the polyhedra, meaning that if you have 6 ammonia bonded to cobalt, then because they are bonded through coordinate bond and these chlorides are bonded through ionic bonds, and we have learnt in covalent bonding, coordinate bonding, that the ionic bonds are non-directional, right? They do not have any structure, while the covalent bondings have direction, and such directions were uh, taught to you in Vesper theory. For example, we may have uh, octahedral, tetrahedral, such type of spatial arrangements are possible, right? So here is spatial arrangement polyhedra which are possible. All right. Now let us check whether our concept is clear or not, right? Now here is example 9.1, and in this example you have to tell the secondary valencies of the metal based on the following experimental data, right? So in this case we have palladium and 2 chlorine and 4 ammonia, and the moles of silver chloride precipitated is 2, right? And what does it indicate? It indicates that since ammonia is neutral molecule, water is neutral molecule, chloride may be charged or may also have coordinate bonding, and that can be predicted from this result. Since it has 2 chloride ionized, so we can write it palladium with 4 ammonia in brackets, and outside this bracket we can put here 2 chloride. And similarly for this you are going to put these 2 chlorides outside. Here is nickel with 6 water molecules intact and 2 chloride outside. And for this example, right, you have platinum and 4 chloride and water 2, and none of them is outside, right? And for this example you have cobalt and ammonia 4 along with 2 chlorine inside and only 1 chlorine outside, because it gives only 1 mole of silver chloride. And for this you will get no one outside, right? So I hope everyone has got this example. It's a very simple example, example 9.1. all right. And now let us differentiate the terms double salt and complex. What do you mean by double salt and complex? See, the double salt and complex, they are not very confusing, but double salt means you will get 2 different categories of salt, right? Potassium chloride, magnesium chloride, ferrous sulfate, ammonium sulfate, potassium aluminum sulfate, right? So this is called double salt, 2 salts joined together, and sometimes it gives you picture that you may think of as a complexes, but wait, these are double salt. That means when we are going to dissolve them, we will get 2 different salts ionized in solution. We will get potassium chloride, magnesium chloride, ferrous sulfate, ammonium sulfate. We will get each one of these ions separately dissociated in aqueous medium. While if we have this compound, right, if you have this compound, then this compound will be ionized to give you 4 potassium ions and 1 this anion, right? And this anion means this anion will not further decompose. So this one is the complex. So right, that was the difference between double salt and complexes.